Wow. Wow. What a day, kind of a normal standard day, not your, kind of highs and lows, I guess, and lots of kind of exciting things happening, negative for Canada, but, and there's other things I want to discuss, but I just finished accepting an invite to Washington, D.C. It's the Democracy Initiative, presidential powers right now, and it's a free invite. I just got invited to Washington, D.C. So I've answered them. I left questions with the organizer, of course. It's the Talamage in Boston is hosting that, and they're going through everything about the presidential direction right now. As a non-American, that's huge, and it's for Canada 51, so I'm going if I want. I'm hoping I can do it online, but they're saying in person March 18th, so they want me there in person, so I'm going to have to look at that. I've messaged the organizers. I accepted the invite, but I've messaged them to say, hey, exactly what's going to be happening here. What is it we're going to discuss? What is it you want from me? I need a little more details before I start booking major trips and time off, all of that. But that's happening, folks. Real, credible, verifiable. It's pretty intense, pretty cool. So what a way to kind of finish off my day today. Last thing I expected, and it's clearly for Canada, the 51st state. So that's right in the invite. So I don't know. It's got to be something I'm going to probably have to do and see what's all said there. But like I said, I need to know a little more details about what they're proposing, what they want to discuss, what my role there would be. But huge, huge, huge. Not small, not at these times. It's kind of funny, the timing of it, because it puts us on track for another set of tariffs and then reciprocal tariffs. And media is starting to touch on that. The things I've been sharing with you now more than a few months. And we saw the tariffs come. We had that delay, but there's actually 2 more rounds of tariffs Canada can expect. And if you don't know this, Congress insiders and administrative insiders in the presidency have let everybody know as of yesterday that Donald J. Trump and the Trump administration's working on easing sanctions with Russia, opening up trade. And if you don't know that so many of the key hits on Canada can easily be replaced by Russia. And of course, when we talk about trade, transportation, when you start looking at ruble on that versus CAD, even though location, it doesn't really matter at all, especially if we're putting sanctions on Canada from USA and Russia's getting them relaxed. Canada partnered with UK, other European nations to really hit hard on Russia's stand with Ukraine. I think we've all seen USA's stance. Donald J. Trump is a lot of things, and he may not sit well with everybody, but there is one thing we cannot deny about President Trump. He is not, emphatically not, a warmonger, has any interest in war, none whatsoever. Maybe as a preventative measure in military force and might and staging, but he will not engage in causing an actual war. This is not the same for Canada, the UK, and several European players who are way outmatched and outgunned by Russia. And in fact, if Russia releases the same kind of new age technical firepower that USA has, that blows everyone in the world out of the water, and we're not even just talking in terms of conventional or non-conventional, it's other high-tech spatial weaponry, like really from space, positioned very well, that not a lot of countries in the world have even remotely close to the capability that USA and clearly Russia have. And in some respects, Russia outperforms USA, and in other respects, USA outperforms Russia. But there's two key things here that either way, on either front, whether we're talking navally or air superiority, these are not good outcomes. And if you're President Putin or President Trump, and you look at the whole global stage as is and say, hey, listen, we're the ones with the might here. Why are we letting people without any authority through might or force dictate how we're supposed to be with each other or pit us against each other? Last time I checked, we have Russia and USA. We, the people of the United States of America. We, the people of Russia Federation. Go through those two constitutions. Start looking at them. Then they have some key differences. But a question I propose to everybody, read the Russian Constitution. Get it translated from the Russian Lexilogos. Read that. Then take the American Constitution. Read that. And then take a constitution, I don't know, like Canada, and read that. Do a comparison of just those three nations. You'll find there's an odd man out here. It's called Canada. That if you're an originalist, that's the Republican side, or even an interpretive on the Democrat side, you can't help but say, if I compare Canada and Russia to me, the United States, no matter which side of the lens I use, I can find way more in common with Russia than I could ever hope to find with Canada. Move on to the United Kingdom in their living constitution uncodified. And it even becomes more drastic where, whoa, these two republics don't match United Kingdom at all. Then start grabbing some of these other European nation allies and start comparing their constitutions, because I promise you, AI is there. If you're American and you've got these high-powered AIs, they're already learning what I spent many years learning. It's all up here. AI is starting to get there enough today to say, hey, look, you've got more in common with Russia and Russian narratives than you do with these others. In fact, these others are contrary to you in many, many forms. In fact, democratically, inside your institutions, theirs don't match you at all. Your institutions codified through your constitution, they don't match you at all. None whatsoever. Like judicial, wow, not even close to the same judiciary. USA has more in common with Russia judicially than it does with the others that are in play here. And if America's honest with itself, which this presidency is, you got to start going, do I really want to engage in Russia that will greatly weaken America, cost many American lives, hurt the American economy? Or do I say, you know what? This isn't a war on our lands or our areas, and it's really a war over ideology, conditioning, social movements, not necessarily human rights, civil rights, or what have you. And in fact, a lot of America, a good majority of America can say, these aren't our shared values. Why are we fighting for those values? Why are we allowing people who don't share our values to try and get us to enforce their will? Why would we do that? And maybe against somebody who has more in common with us than they now do. And in fact, we can look, Russia isn't in all our institutions. Russia isn't in all our finance. Russia isn't poisoning our civics. All these others are. And we got to start looking at it. They're the ones who are rushing to go to China, bragging about how big bad America needs to be taught a lesson, how it would be better to be with communist China. Maybe Russia might be willing to make a deal and move away from China much easier than these allies will, who are not willing at all. And in fact, for decades and decades have championed nothing but limiting America, expanding communist China, and they have. So honestly, folks, if you're the President of the United States and you have one mandate, the American people, we the people of the United States, that is my primary. Their security, their peace and security, their nation, their national security. Put Americans first. America first, which is not a slogan. We know it's a law. It's an amendment to the Constitution, 1790. It's one of the highest laws of America. And if an American president is doing his job, his administration's doing their job in the executive, they will see those things through for the American people. That's why they're elected. Those are their lanes. So your President Trump, I've been invited to this forum to discuss these things, and I have to look at it that, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I don't know, does it make sense to all of you? If it does, share this video, because I think Canada's going to find itself right across the board, especially in resources, locked out of mass amounts of global markets. And what does that leave us with? Like I said, if you didn't know, USA, Mexico, Ecuador, sure, but go look at your other international trade agreements, China and Beijing. That's all you have. All unitary civil law, socialist or extremist, if not full-on communism. Well, the communist country reins them all in. They're all perfect 15-minute city systems. In fact, a couple of them are city-states. They're an entire city-states because they're an island. You're not an island. Now, UK loves that narrative because they are too, and they want to mold you that way. But is that really best for Canada? This massive mass, such drastic geographical changes, cultures, everything else, diversity in Canada, that's only represented by two other countries in any similar respect. Russia, United States, who, regardless if you like them or not, are very powerful. In fact, the two most powerful countries in the world, two most powerful economies effectually in the world. And when you start looking at them in their sphere of influence, their value and supply chains, their military development, it clearly shows you that result in massive land masses, well stretched over massive topical differences, geographical differences, massive environmental differences, elevation differences, and cultural differences. Russia even has even more than the USA. Yeah, massive oblasts, way more than the 50 states. They just added a bunch. They're at 87 now. Like, folks, these are things you can't just dismiss and say, hey, you know, we belong in this other system because someone in a foreign country, thousands and thousands of miles away, has constituted you that way and said, you must behave this way, contrary to what you are. And USA recognizes it. They say, hey, you know, we see you as you are, how you should be, but you've got this big, ugly thing on your back, and we can't accept that. We can't let you continue the way you are. We're going to have to make changes, and we're going to have to move towards the things that are most aligned with us, that will promote national security, trade for all the states and the people of the states, putting Americans first in jobs, opportunity, trade. And if you're in the way of that, they'll push you out of the way. If you have taxation without representation on those American goods, or you're blocking them in key industries, they're going to push you out of the way. And they have the might and the right to do so. It's important to understand that. The might and the right. You don't have the right to do that to America. You don't. You're getting that from a foreign power many, many thousands of miles away, so far away, who has no effectual influence over you militarily anymore. None whatsoever. Western Army, UK's gone. Eastern, they're all pulled out too. USA's not ignorant to this. They're going, why are we even letting you have this conversation? We're not. And we're not going to beat you up. We're just going to say, hey, you know what? We're ending our trading relationship with you. It hasn't been mutually beneficial. If you want to get back to that, there's a place for you to do that. A fair place that doesn't involve you competing against our 50 states as our next door neighbor. Well, we're supplementing you because your government wants to devalue you, hyperinflate you. We are mandated not to do that to the American people, so we won't let you do that, competing against us, hurting us, making America last. It's against the law of the United States. Trump is doing what his job entails him to do to a T. And people can say, oh, and I'm hearing all the rhetoric from premiers, the prime minister, and it doesn't matter which premier, conservative, liberal, NDP, doesn't matter. They all got the same smoke show. And at the end of the day, you're going to have your industries replaced. And I think in short order, I have in my gut feeling that I think something with Russia and USA is going to be rolled out before the second wave of tariffs, April. Before that second wave. And if that happens, goodbye, Canada. You will have only one option. Quickly, expediently work towards Canada, the 51st state. Or by, again, April 15th, 2026, Americans, when tax time comes around and these changes are instituted, the anger of initial tariffs and hyper costs, which are limited. They're not huge, but they will be effectual. But by the time they hit that and all of a sudden the tariffs are repatriated through lower taxes, let's say, and that weighs more than what was lost. Americans are going to say, well, my taxes are lower, I do the math, I've got more at my tax return. Now, from here on out, these are my new federal taxes. That beats out these thousands of costs when maybe it's twice what it cost me. Well, I'm going to take the lower taxes. That's what they're all going to say. And they're going to say, let's keep this ball rolling. We like more. Let's only trade with those who are fair traders. Canadians don't want to see it, but I've already talked about the Russia thing. I didn't know for sure, but it was what I said. It's what I would do if I was president of the United States. And it sure looks as though Donald J. Trump and the GOP are absolutely exploring and open to that. And they're already discussing it. And they will leave those empires on the doorstep. Go ahead. You want to fight Russia? You fight Russia. We're not. We're not wasting any American lives on Russia. And if Russia wants to make an arrangement, an agreement with us and supply us with goods that now we're going to lose from Mexico and China, easily replace them. It might even be cheaper. And we still collect tariffs because Canada needs us. And they can't replace everything. No matter what they say, they lose. Tit for tat, they lose exponentially. And this is the scary part. Limited hurt if USA and Russia come up with a deal over the course of this month. I shouldn't say next. The course of this month, March. Can you imagine a rollout, a peace agreement? All of it? All of it? That would destroy Canada forevermore, meaning there is no recovery. Zero, zip, zilch. And anyone telling you otherwise, I am very sorry. But every single thing found in Canada is also found in Russia in plenty. We're identical. We're a breakaway. You can see the continents that came together, the Arctic. Russia and Canada are one crack away. If anyone doesn't see that in that Arctic Ocean, I'm sorry, but you're deluding yourself. Both same hemisphere, same all. And it's more than just that. We were once Pangea. And you know what? Russia, Canada were one. And you can see by the people, the land bridge, the growth, the vegetation, all of it. Climate, all of it. Resources, all of it. And Russia is expansive. And It touches America. You can see it at the Bering Strait. I've articulated that too. People look at the world from the British map. You're as bad as flat earthers. You're as bad as flat earthers. You're like flat square earths centralized on UK. That's so wrong. It's not even funny. We're a globe, satellite positioning. Let's look at it from this perspective. Let's go over to Alaska. Whoa, there's Russia entirely. Our very next door neighbor. No problem in shipping routes there. None whatsoever. They can even follow a coastline. No problem. No problem. They can get it done. They got trains, infrastructure. They've got shipping. They've got big capacity shipping, multi-million capacity. Fluids or dry goods, does not matter. They can get it done. No problem. At very cheap rates, especially with Canada under sanctions. Even 10% energy sanctions puts Russia right now way ahead of Alberta. It makes Americans go, you know what? Russia would be our best source right now. And they're desperate. We might even get a reduced oil price deal with Russia just to get the ball rolling, which will save us more than we ever would have saved with the differential from Canada. This is what I mean about Canadians. They can't see past their own noses, and it's not your fault. Your politicians are compulsive liars. They're all on that radical globalist media that's taken over the United States, all on those left programs. Oh yeah, you can see all the premiers spending all your tax dollars trying to sell Americans on a major lie. And it's moving the needle a little bit. It is. Trump will start going down. But like I said, if he rolls out some and all of a sudden Americans are getting better jobs, higher wages, not competing with cheap Canadian labor, cheap Canadian products, same with Mexico, and all of a sudden Americans are producing, Americans are selling, American wages have risen, they've created prosperity. Look out. Look out. And these are dreams of Canadians, which is really sad that so many Canadians would love these dreams. Free trade across Canada, out on the seas, get it all done. Of course, no military, no ability of interprovincial trade. We did not have the more perfect union transition of the current Constitution of the United States. We never had that. I had a long talk with Ben about it last night. He alluded to a lot of things I didn't know about Americans and their education, things not focused on at the state level, or that there was two separate constitutions. That's not really hit in America, so Americans do kind of fall into Articles of Confederation versus the Constitution of the United States. The more perfect union that was created to remove all trade barriers between the states, because that was the problem with the 13 colonies that were just exactly like what happened in 1867 in the Dominion of Canada, that's reigned supreme ever since, that they actually can't trade with each other because they're always trying to screw each other over. They couldn't come up with equitable solutions like franchise tax, right? No matter which state you go to, the bigger the company, the more you pay. Very simple. You're successful, pay it back. Give somebody else an opportunity. We expect it from you, not the lowly working stiff. Like I said, I did a major release. People are trying to argue with me, but Alberta versus Louisiana. Alberta's almost got twice the budget as Louisiana. They're nearly tit for tat in population, a difference of 100,000 people. Louisiana budget's almost half as much as Alberta in spending. That's what they spend. Their total debt, state total debt, $16 billion. Danielle Smith's running $11 billion in the hole this year alone, and often you've seen it go so high. Nearly annual deficits of the total debt of Louisiana in all of its lifetime. Huh? Whoa. Talk about radically socialist, crazy credit card spending, drunken sailor, lunatic with a credit card. Oh, buy, never pay it. That's Alberta. A super socialist state. 3 times the taxes as the state of Louisiana. In Louisiana, you work, it's between 1.75 to a maximum of 4.25% taxes. In Alberta right now, Danielle Smith's bragging about, I'm going to spend $11 billion and share $1.2 billion with anyone under $60,000 a year. I'm going to give you a 2% tax deduction, and everyone will feel that trickling effect of $1.2 billion. But before I can give you that, I need to borrow $11 billion. So I've more than 10 times the money that I'm supposedly giving you back at tax time. I'm going to borrow 10 times that amount against all of you. Cool. I'm going to outspend any kind of source of rational normality. I will double the spending of Louisiana. Same populations, nearly same services. They have the same health expenses. In fact, federally, state combined, it's 2.5 times that of Alberta. You have a more broken healthcare system, costs much more, health bankruptcies in Louisiana, just like a lot of America. But go look at that. And they still balance their budget. They still don't go radical spending because they have limits, checks, and balances for that. Very, very physically conservative. Alberta is their worst nightmare in the United States. People who talk about 51st state, Alberta, for example, being this conservative safe haven, it would be the most socialist, fascist state of the Union. Doesn't even work in a state constitution. That kind of radical spending, runaway deficits, and debt loading to the likes of which you can't find in any other state of the Union. California, New York, people like to say that. Maybe socially they got some quirky ideas, but in the physical realm of conservative, they blow Alberta out of the water. Alberta's taxes are huge compared to any other state, and that's Louisiana. I give you a complete comparison. Not only does Louisiana spend half, they tax more than 4 to 5 times less in all sources, some as high as 10 times less than what Alberta taxes provincially. And Alberta has a whole bunch of tax regimes that don't even exist in Louisiana, bringing in more and more money, driving up inflation, driving up the cost of living for Albertans. That's just Alberta. I only give that example as supposedly this conservative safe haven of the world, of Canada. Alberta's the best, right? No one gets brutally taxed there. Well, in the United States, it's the most brutal, if you were to look at it, the most brutally taxed peoples, if you were to make that a state, than anything found in the USA. In fact, it's not even codifiable. It doesn't even fit in the narrative of a state. It couldn't even be issued an enabling act just in that design and terms, because then they're going to say, where's your constitution? You can't tax without representation. You can't have an all-powerful premier and lieutenant governor and executive powers that usurp every rational normality of any state in the state powers. You've never codified it. You have no military militia to make a national guard. You're nothing our union can use. In fact, you're the opposite of every other state in the union, all 50. And that's Alberta. I mean, they're all the same. And Alberta's the best foot forward, supposedly. I don't even agree that it is. There's arguments here because other provinces have lower taxes in some respects, even BC in certain respects, others. A detailed analysis would have to determine. But Alberta alone is no good in the union, none whatsoever. That's why you'll never hear a president or anyone championing provinces, because they're a complete, utter polar opposite to everything that is a state of the union, where sovereignty lies. A more perfect union. We, the people of the United States of America. United States. The 50 states. That's who holds the sovereignty and everything that's America. If you ever want to know, I urge you, pick any state you want. I don't care. It'll blow you out of the water. New York will blow you out of the water. You're going to learn about DEI. It's totally illegal in New York, like handwritten in their constitution. You can't do this, this, this. Kingdom, blah, 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 signed equity, blah, blah, blah. Subjects, all, they list it all in tremendous detail. Why are the states themselves so much more detailed than the federal constitution? Because the states are constituted before the Constitution, all 13. And every state that ever came into the Union had to run through a state constitution process, enshrining all their powers articulated, at least since the United States Constitution today, 1787, till today. Everybody had to define and write that out. And I'll tell you, the average state constitution is at least 300 pages to 500 pages. Some are as high as 900 pages long. Tremendous detail, tremendous things that are given to the states, because anything not in the federal constitution, if it's not there, it automatically goes to the state. They continue to write their constitutions, adding to it, growing, evolving the 50 states at a rapid, massive pace. Evolving America. Yeah. And you won't see their cockamamie spending or the corruption nowhere near. And no one ever talks about it. No one ever talks about the beauty of the 50 states. Nobody ever does. All unique, all separate houses, different structure, engineering, sizes, colors, big bay windows, not one on a beach, one on a mountain, one in a forest, with all kinds of differences. No two are the same. They work really well together. And they share something, that they're not aggressively blowing money and inflating their people. They hold their sovereignty tight. They keep it tight, both at the municipal and state level. You won't find this truth in Canada. No way, shape, or form. You'll find everyone's working against everybody. Everyone's in everyone's pockets. Everyone's trying to screw everybody over. That's my video, folks. Share, share, share. Get it out there. God bless. Bye now.